Okay, good evening, everyone. I don't say good night anymore because the sun is still up, even though it's 8 o'clock. Is this close enough? Let's see. Good evening. Welcome. Yeah, we're going to start off with charity. Please take a coin and pass it along. Coin, dollar bill, charity box, pushka, we say in Yiddish, Jewish, really. And pass it to your neighbor. Knock on your neighbor's door and say, "Hey, would you like to give charity?" And they say, "Get out of my face!" Like, but charity. And they say, "Okay, fine." Okay. No, I'm sure your neighbors are very nice. So, today's class is Le'ilu Nishmas. It's to the memory of, to the elevation of the soul of Rabbi Moshe Yehuda and Tzvi Yosef, if I'm not mistaken. Katarsky, I guess he was the executive director of Merkaz Linyonei Chinuch, which basically, in simple English, he ran all Chabad operations worldwide. He passed away this week. Very sad, very sad. Apparently, he was a giant of a man. I didn't know him personally. I met him only once in person. I mean, we all knew him to one degree or another. But tonight's learning will be to his merits. So first, we're going to start off with Code of Jewish Law. Oh, I also want to point out that this coming Wednesday, we'll just send the flyer. Wednesday, right? Wednesday, the first day of Shavuot, we're going to have a reading of the 10 Commandments, which is very important. If you can come to Shul, come to the Chabad house, please do. If you can't, try to rearrange your schedule and come anyway. It's very important to hear the 10 Commandments being read on Shavuot. Men, women, children, little babies, everybody. Followed by a grand dairy buffet, cheesecakes. I'm not going to say the rest. It's all surprise, but definitely going to be cheesecakes. For those of you who have been here in previous years, you know this is not an event you would want to miss at all. And if you did, you'd be very, very sorry. Okay. So we are in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the Abridged Code of Jewish Law, Chapter 2, Law number 8. We're talking about washing the hands. If a person, now there are 4 different scenarios, either got up and washed his hands while it was still night. So a person was sleeping, they got up in the middle of the night, washed their hands the way they're supposed to, like we described previous classes. And again, it was in the middle of the night, could be 3, 4 in the morning, the sun didn't come up yet. And they remained awake until the morning. Okay? That's scenario number 1. Or if, number 2, person got up in the middle of the night, washed their hands, and then went to sleep again a little while later while it was still night. Or scenario number 3, if a person slept 60 breaths, which is approximately half an hour, according to at least the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the Abridged Code of Jewish Law. There are other varying opinions of how long that is, varying from about 3 hours to 3 minutes. Yeah, really wide range. Somebody slept 60 breaths, however long exactly that is, during the daytime. Okay, took a nap, in other words, long-ish nap. Or the person who remained awake during the entire night without sleeping 60 breaths, the person who stayed up the entire night. In either of these 4 scenarios, there is a question within the discussions of Jewish law, but how to actually rule at the final analysis. There's a question whether one is required to wash their hands after any of these scenarios when they finally get up. Or in the case of the person who stayed up all night or remained awake until the morning, do they need to wash? Hence, one should wash their hands 3 times, alternating between right and left, as described in law number 3. However, one should not recite a blessing. Okay. That was for today's. Okay. Class tonight, if you've been joining us on our journey throughout these classes of the past year or so, you'll have a sense of deja vu, that the content of today's class might sound a little familiar to you. And the reason is very simple. We gave this class last year, the same content. However, first of all, it's important to review things. It's always important to review Torah study, always. To learn something once is is important, but it's definitely crucial to learn it again and again and again. Let it seep into our psyche. But also we can try to spice it up a little bit. Try to get that feeling of the newness of it. Okay, faithful marriage. The event of the giving of the Torah. This is a Shavuos themed class for commemorating the giving of the Torah on Mount Sinai, close to 3,500 years ago. The giving of the Torah is considered a marriage between God and the Jewish people. What form of loyalty does this relationship require? What kind of wife do we have to be? How does that work? The institution of marriage, as we know it, has its roots in the marriage between God and the Jewish people. A man has 3 ways of betrothing a woman. Likewise, the Jewish people have three ways of becoming God's chosen ones. We are already chosen, but to bring that out, which serve as channels to become sanctified to Him. Tonight's class is based on a talk from the Lubavitcher Rebbe from the 3rd of the month of Tammuz, 1963, and a private audience that the Rebbe had with a number of students. Okay, section A. Oh, I forgot to mention, if you'd like to sponsor tonight's class or a future class, please reach out, rabbi@jewisherie.com, or if you'd like the curriculum for tonight. Section A heavenly argument. So, Shavuos celebrates the giving of the Torah on Mount Sinai. When Moses went up, Moshe, which accent should I speak in, by the way? I don't even know. There's Moses, there's Moshe, there's Moshe, that's the way I was graced to say it. I'll say one of the 3 on purpose by accident, and you'll figure out who I'm talking about. When he ascended the mountain to receive the Torah, he spent 40 days and 40 nights up there. What was he doing for 40 days and 40 nights? The Talmud tells an extraordinary story of what transpired in heaven, where Moshe got into an argument with the angels. Very interesting. So first, the Rebbe introduces the idea that, or on page 3, Torah has a form of spiritual expression in heaven, in addition to its physical manifestation in the material world. So we have a Torah; it's got all the 613 mitzvahs, and the stories of the Torah. But there's also a spiritual dimension to the Torah, which exists. It exists always, but I'm saying in everywhere. But it's seen and felt in heaven. Before the Torah descended into this world, it existed in the spiritual realm. And the angels even asked that it be given to them. As it says, bestow your majesty upon the heavens. So let's see what the Rebbe is referencing. There's a certain story in the Talmud. It's not a story in the Talmud. It's this Talmud, the story that the Talmud tells that happened while Moshe was on Mount Sinai. I already made a blessing, so l'chaim. Okay. Source 1, Talmud, the book of Shabbos, page 88, side B, which is like the discussion in Talmud about the giving of the Torah. So you can see a little blurb on the side about Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi, who we're about to quote. You can read that yourself. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi said, when Moses ascended on high, the angels said to God, Master of the universe, Ribono Shel Olam, what is this son of a woman doing here? What is this human being doing here? God responded, he has come to receive the Torah. Good answer. God always has good answers. They replied, you have a treasure that has been hidden for 974 generations before the world was created, and you want to give it to a man of flesh and blood? And the Talmud actually quotes 2 verses, which was kind of expressing what the angels were saying. What is man that you shall remember him? And who is the son of man that you shall be mindful of? God, our master, how mighty is your name on all of the earth. You should bestow your majesty upon the heavens. Answer them, Moses, God said. They're provoking you. They have a good claim, a good complaint. Respond. Page 4. Master of the universe, I'm scared that they will burn me with the breath of their mouths, Moses said. It's a good reason to be a little concerned. God responded, hold on to my throne of glory and answer them. So he did. Master of the universe, Moses addressed God. What is written in the Torah which you are giving to me? I am your God who has taken you out of Egypt, God answered. Moses turned to the angels. Did you go down to Egypt? Were you slaves to Pharaoh? Why should you get the Torah? What else does it say? Moses asked God. You should not have any other gods. Do you live among the other nations who worship idols? Moses asked the angels. Obviously, the answer to these questions is all no. What else does it say? Moses asked God. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. You don't work, Moses told the angels. What will you rest from? What else does it say? You shall not take God's name in vain. Do you have business dealings? Taking God's name in vain during business, it's back in the day for sure, but I'm sure also nowadays is somewhat common. People will, they'll put their reliance in false gods, and they'll swear that this and this. The person will swear that they didn't take any more money than they were supposed to during the deal, whatever it is. It's taking God's name in vain. So he said, "Do you have business dealings?" What else does it say? Honor your father and mother. Do you have parents? Do not murder. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. Can you be jealous? Do you have an evil inclination? Hearing this, the angels conceded. The angels became friends with Moses and gave him gifts. As it is stated, you ascended on high, you took a captive. It's a verse. You took gifts on account of man, meaning the reward was for the fact that the angels called him man. The verse references the idea of man because it's hinting to the story that happened where the angels said, what is this man doing here? Page 5. The quote from the Talmud ends off. Even the angel of death gave a gift, telling Moses how to stop a plague. Moses later instructed Aaron on how to stop a plague. He placed the incense and he atoned for the people, and he stood between the dead and the living, and the plague stopped. If not for the angel of death telling him, how would Moses have known the remedy? Before we go further, it was a very important detail that I picked up while I was preparing tonight's class. I wanted to share. I got very excited about it. Moshe, okay? During this conversation, he's asking God, Hashem, what does it say in your Torah? It says, keep the Shabbos. He turns to the angel and says, do you guys work that you should rest on the Shabbos? And this is repeating itself in one way or another, different forms. It seems from the discussion that Moshe didn't know what was written in the Torah. Okay? In other words, this is at a point where the Jewish people, I'm not mistaken, they had already said, Na'aseh v'nishma, that we will do and we will hear. First we're going to do, then we're going to try to understand. And Moshe exemplified this. He doesn't know what it says in the Torah. I could be wrong. This is just my speculation. But he doesn't know what it says in the Torah yet. He's finding out in the middle of the story certain things that it says. Keep Shabbos, don't murder, don't steal, honor your parents. And without even blinking, without even a moment's thought to say, wait, am I really up for this? The rest of my life, I'm going to be keeping Shabbos. What if I want to do something on the seventh day? There's something that's not in line with Shabbos. Maybe I'm not. There's no space of him thinking and having doubts. It's just God said this is what it says in the Torah. Okay, that's what we're doing. Well, you angels have nothing to do with this. I thought it was an interesting idea, an interesting point. Moving further. Page 5. What were they thinking? What were the angels thinking? The angels' request seems difficult to understand. The angels were incapable of observing the laws of the Torah which relate to the physical world. For example, the laws of marriage have no application for angels. Angels don't get married. Angels don't get married. Are angels men or women, by the way? Do you know? Angels, a man or a woman? Men? I think it says about Gabriel, the angel Gabriel. I think it says he refers to him as a man, but I don't think they're men or women. They're angels. They don't have a gender. So marriage doesn't apply to them. They're not seeking relationships with other angels. They exist to fulfill God's will. Why then did they ask that the Torah be given to them? What on earth were they asking? They knew what it said in the Torah. Seemingly, what Moses was complaining was responding to their complaint. That was not new information to them. So, what exactly were they looking for? Why did they want it? Says the Rebbe, it must be that the angels asked to be given the Torah in its spiritual manifestation. That's what they wanted. The spiritual plane of Torah is something the angels could also study. What do the souls of the righteous, the tzaddikim and the angels, what do they do in heaven? They bask in the divine glory and study Torah. Yeah. The study of Torah in paradise, in Gan Eden, in heaven, is, of course, on a very deep and refined spiritual level. I don't know if you have this in your sheet, do you? The next page. It's an optional section, it says? Yeah. Okay, so we're going to do the optional section because why not? And it's a good story. The following is an interesting story, which brings up this point of Torah study in heaven. A story that the sixth Chabad Rebbe, we refer to him as the previous Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe, related at a Hasidic gathering at a Farbrengen, as recorded by the Rebbe in his personal notebook. Okay. So, source 2, page 6. I will now tell you a story, as I promised you on Simchat Torah night. Don't ask me for more details, because I won't give them. Straight up, right? Rabbi Shmuel Ber Borisov, known as Rabbi Shmuel Ber Borisover, had a very close relationship with the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Chabad Rebbe. But he never told the Rebbe the following story until he was old and felt that his time was coming. This is the story. He said, quote, on Simchat Torah night in 1853, Rabbi Shmuel Ber was asleep. Attached to the house of the Tzemach Tzedek, who was the third Chabad Rebbe, there was a separate wing where the Rebbe Maharash, his son, the later fourth Chabad Rebbe, lived. When Rabbi Shmuel Ber awoke from his sleep, he went into a side room in the Tzemach Tzedek's house. Suddenly, the Tzemach Tzedek's door opened, and he rushed over to the Rebbe Maharash's house, knocked on the window. The two of them, the Tzemach Tzedek and the Rebbe Maharash, then entered the side room where Rabbi Shmuel Ber was standing. Trembling with awe, obviously he was not seen, he was hiding, Rabbi Shmuel Ber heard the Tzemach Tzedek tell the Rebbe Maharash, my grandfather, the Alter Rebbe, who was the first Chabad Rebbe, promised to come and teach me a Mishnah in Tractate Sukkah, as it is studied in the lower realm of paradise. Just for context, by the time of the story, the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe, had already passed away many years before. But he said that his grandfather, the Alter Rebbe, promised he's going to teach him a Mishnah from the Tractate Sukkah, as it is studied in Gan Eden, in the lower realm of heaven. The two of them and then entered the Tzemach Tzedek's room. Rabbi Shmuel Ber pressed his ear to the door and heard the beginning of the discussion, but then fell asleep. Yeah. So, in the continuation of the talk from the Rebbe that we will study today, the Rebbe analyzes the Torah's laws of marriage and explores their spiritual meaning. As we said before, that the giving of the Torah Mount Sinai, what we're celebrating on Shavuot, is celebrating the marriage of Hashem with the Jewish people. So we're going to be talking about marriage. Section B. Any questions? No. How do you get married? Simple, right? No. Nothing's ever simple. Source 3. Talmud Kiddushin, which is the tractate devoted to the laws of marriage. Right in the beginning, 2a. This is actually the very first thing it says in the tractate. A woman is betrothed, becomes married legally, according to Jewish law, married with one of three ways. With money, a legal document, or cohabitation. So Rashi, the commentator on the Talmud, he explains, money means he gives her money or an object worth money and tells her, you are hereby betrothed to me. A document means he writes on a paper, even if the paper has no value, you are hereby betrothed to me. In cohabitation, they engage in marital relations, and he says, be betrothed to me with this cohabitation. We actually technically-ish do all three today, nowadays. The way that we practically do the marriage ceremony, there is money involved. There's a ring that the groom gives to the bride, which has obviously monetary value, and actually, according to Jewish law, must have monetary value. It can't be a ring made of aluminum foil. It's cheap. Cohabitation obviously happens, and that's part of the consummation of the marriage. And the documents, this is where the technically comes in. The documents that we have, what people refer to as the ketubah, or what it's referred to as the kesuba. The kesuba it's called a marriage document, but it actually doesn't make the marriage happen. Okay, the giving of the ring and the cohabitation actually affect and make the marriage binding, and real and effective. But the document, the kesuba that we write, is more of a marriage contract. It's not really a way of making the marriage happen. Okay, page 7 says the Rebbe. A married woman is consecrated. What does this mean? The opening Mishnah of Tractate Kiddushin states a woman is betrothed in three ways: through money, a legal document, or cohabitation. On the basic level, this Mishnah is about the relationship between a Jewish man and woman, which is termed Kiddushin. That's the Hebrew word, betrothal. The man betroths the woman, and the woman becomes betrothed to the man. The literal meaning of the word Kiddushin is consecrated, holy. Kiddushin doesn't actually mean marriage. Kiddushin means a holy activity, I guess you could say. The Talmud explains that this word is used for betrothal because the act of betrothal makes the betrothed, the wife, forbidden to all other men. Just like hektish. Hektish are items that are consecrated for the temple service and cannot be used by anyone else. This means that in addition to the unique bond created between the man and the woman, there is also an active disassociation from the rest of the world. So, just like in the Holy Temple, back when it's standing and God will be rebuilt speedily in our days, there were many things that had a status of hektish. It was a holy object or holy thing that was used in the service. You couldn't do personal things with this. The only thing you were allowed to do with this object or with this animal, whatever it is, was to use it for the temple service. Okay, somebody who God forbid used any of these things for something of personal use, it's being called moil behektish. It's a desecration of the holiness. And there's a lot of stuff they had to do. They had to bring a sacrifice. They had to. It was a terrible sin. But that's what holiness means in this case. Holy means that this thing is designated, it's unique, it's just for this purpose, and it's not for anything else. Okay? So to a marriage, a woman becomes betrothed, she becomes consecrated, she becomes holy in a sense. That she and this man have a unique bond, a unique relationship that she shares with no one else. Page 8. This exclusion of all others is a key element of betrothal, of marriage, to the extent that it gives it its name, Kiddushin. As the Talmud says, source 4, why is marriage called Kiddushin, consecration? Because with this act, the woman becomes forbidden to the rest of the world like something holy and consecrated. So in other words, marriage binds the fate of a couple together, and at the same time disconnects them from all other people in the world. An inseparable part of marriage is the faithfulness of the couple to each other. We can see for ourselves, we can imagine how actions that express a connection with somebody else, another man, another woman, question the loyalty of the couple and can actually destroy the relationship because it's the exact opposite of the relationship. This is why the act of marriage is called Kiddushin, which denotes the paramount importance of the faithfulness of the couple. Where does this requirement for exclusivity come from? Why does this need to be in a marriage? Where does it stem from? The Talmud says there are three partners in the creation of a person: Hashem, the father, and the mother. Those are the three partners. Marriage is a holy bond where the couple enters a covenant with each other and with the third partner, with Hashem. It is Hashem who gives them the incredible power to create new life in this world. Which is why I'll share with you an interesting teaching from the Talmud. The way you spell the word man in biblical Hebrew, the word is ish. Aleph, Yud, Shin. Okay? The way you write the word woman in Hebrew is Isha. Aleph, Shin, Hey. Okay? The Talmud says, if Hashem is present in the marriage, if the couple lives a life that is in line with the Torah's teachings and spirit, and in line with following the mitzvahs and the code of Jewish law properly, the best of their ability, God is present in their marriage, and that is a ish and an isha, a man and a woman. That's a healthy, a wholesome relationship. However, if you take God out of the picture, you take out the yud from ish, from the man's from the title, you take out the hey from the woman's name, isha. Okay, yud and hey is actually spells out Hashem's name, one of his names. all that you're left with is Aleph Shin and Aleph Shin. That's Aish and Aish, fire and fire. That's what that means in Hebrew. All you're left with is fire. You take God out of the picture, it's just fire. It's dangerous. So this is not just like any agreement, a marriage, like a business deal between partners, where they decide what the contract will include and what they are ready to compromise on. No, it's a sacred agreement, a covenant with God. It's not just between the man and the woman, it's a covenant between man, woman, and Hashem. And holiness is a central component of this marital agreement, Kiddushin, which is why if you ever get to witness a Chabad, that's what I'm more familiar with, a Chabad wedding, the actual wedding ceremony, the celebration that happens afterwards is just a celebration that happens afterwards, which is important. But the actual marriage takes place under the chuppah, under the canopy. It's a very surreal experience, very, very much. It's not a mundane experience at all. It's very, very spiritual, very holy, very godly, actually, more appropriately. Three ways to marry, yeah? Kiddushin can be effected in three ways, as we said: money, a legal document, and cohabitation. The Mishnah and Talmud discuss the legal details of this. There are basic differences between each of the three forms of Kiddushin. Money. When a man gives a woman money or an item of monetary value, like a ring, for the purpose of Kiddushin, he isn't giving a part of his own body. Right? He didn't pull this ring off the skin of his hand. It's a separate thing. The money is completely external to him. However, although external to the person, the item must be something of significance, worth at least a peruta, which is a small value in Jewish law, a sum that suffices to buy basic human needs. A lesser sum is too insignificant and doesn't affect the Kiddushin in the marriage. Page 9, document. The document itself need not be worth anything, actually. All that is required is for the man to write on the document, "You are mikudeshet, you are betrothed to me," and for the woman to willingly accept it. Cohabitation, this is a deeply personal connection between the man and the woman and is the key to the goal of marriage, which is be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. So we learned two important details regarding Kiddushin. One, a key element of Kiddushin, of marriage, is the proper Jewish marriage, is the fact that the betrothed woman is now forbidden to all other men. And two, there are three ways to effect Kiddushin: money, a document, and cohabitation. Yeah, so the concept of Kiddushin, says the Rebbe says. What? The Rebbe says. Sorry for that. And the three ways of effecting it also have a spiritual dimension. In the next section of the class, we are going to learn about the spiritual dimension of these same exact laws. C, marriage with the Creator. Any questions before we go further? No. Yeah. Song of Songs, in Hebrew, Shir HaShirim, which is one of the books of the Tanakh, of the books of the Torah. The Song of Songs, in the very first verse, is attributed to King Solomon. It's a Song of Songs of Solomon. The Megillah, this scroll, is comprised of a series of love songs that describe the mutual search of lovers between the vineyards and rolling meadows. The sages explain that this book is actually a metaphor for the relationship between the Jewish people and Hashem. In many communities, actually, it is recited on Friday afternoons, Shabbos, and on the Shabbos during Pesach, Passover. So, the Mishnah has something interesting to say about Song of Songs. Source 5, page 10. Rabbi Akiva said, the entire world was worthwhile just for the day Song of Songs was given to the Jewish people. For all the writings are holy, and the Song of Songs is the holiest of them all. That's quite a statement. So the context is the sages were debating which books are considered holy and should be counted as part of the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible. Some were of the opinion that the Song of Songs, which was kind of filled with love songs, which wasn't a holy book. Rabbi Akiva interrupted the conversation. He declared that Song of Songs is holier than the rest. Why? Because these songs are metaphors for the relationship between Hashem and his people. So says the Rebbe about this. The sages teach that Song of Songs, which describes the relationship between a man and a woman, is a metaphor for the relationship between God and the Jewish people. God is the husband, and the Jewish people are the wife. The Mishnah in Tractate Tanit states that the day of his wedding, there's a verse, it says, B'yom Chasunosei, the day of his wedding, refers to the day of the giving of the Torah. It's a wedding day. The day when God gave the Torah to the Jewish people was the day of the wedding between them. This was the day when God chose the Jewish people from among all the nations to have a special relationship with him. As the verse states, you will be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation for me. Page 11. This connection is termed Kiddushin, a holy nation. Like in the Kiddushin between a man and a woman, this event makes us forbidden to the rest of the world, so to speak. This means that we need to look at the entire world as hektish, consecrated materials. And as the Talmud states in Barachot, anyone who benefits from this world without making a blessing has improperly derived benefit from items consecrated to God. What does this mean? So let's see source 6 in the Talmud Brachot 35a. Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Shemuel, one who derives benefit from this world without saying a blessing is like one who enjoys consecrated items. As the verse states, the earth and all it contains is God's. I think we mentioned this in a previous class. It was about blessings, actually. It was a very good class. Yes. You were there? Yeah. The world and everything in it belongs to Hashem. For us to take a food and eat it, you know what we call that? Stealing, right? You take something that's not yours. The only way we have permission to eat what belongs to Hashem is by thanking him for creating this food, for thanking him for giving us this food. We call that a blessing. And there's a set of blessings there's for different foods that you have to make before you eat the food. Otherwise, it's considered like stealing from Hashem. Once you make the blessing, now Hashem says, okay, now you can eat it. And by doing so, we are enjoying the world's good. We're making sure that enjoying the world's goodness is done in a holy and dignified way. Accordingly, when speaking of marriage between Hashem and the Jewish people, the first element is consecration. From our perspective, the entire world is consecrated, and we can only partake in it in the way the Torah allows us to. The consecration of the marriage of Hashem and the Jewish people can be explained alternatively as well. In a mortal marriage, one cannot be devoted the way that one should be in a marriage to two people simultaneously. It's not possible. Likewise, in the spiritual sense, a Jew cannot be wed to Hashem and also to the material pleasures of this world. Does this mean that we must shun the material world entirely? The answer is no. We must live within the world and at the same time be connected to Hashem. But deep down, we need to have our priorities straight. Sometimes we must decide what is really important. To be a Jew or a person of the world. To go to Shul on Yom Kippur and miss out on a trip of a lifetime, or the opposite. We have to get a priority straight. This is what the laws of marriage teach us. When one marries their spouse, they decide to be connected to them exclusively. And the same applies in the spiritual sense. When a Jew decides to be connected with Hashem, that takes precedence over everything. It isn't necessarily a daily struggle, but when there is a clash, we need to know what to do. And deep down, every Jew chooses God. I read this story last year. It's a good story. I'm going to read it again because it brings out these points beautifully. In Antwerp, Belgium, with its bustling diamond district, there's a flourishing Jewish jewelry industry. Jews are very successful in those businesses. Eliyahu is a Jew who emigrated to Belgium from Georgia, the country of Georgia, and now owns a jewelry store on a street with several similar businesses. A number of years ago, he developed a warm relationship with Rabbi Shabtai Slavititsky, the Chabad rabbi in Antwerp. Thanks to their relationship, Eliyahu began observing some mitzvahs, like putting on tefillin and keeping kosher. Every so often, he'd add another mitzvah. However, Rabbi Slavititsky had failed to influence him in one area, Shabbos observance. Like most of his friends, Eliyahu kept his store open on Shabbos, arguing that it was the best day for sales. The rabbi countered that these earnings wouldn't bring blessings, but his words fell on deaf ears. One day, Eliyahu approached the rabbi excitedly. "I've decided to close my store on Shabbos," he announced emotionally. The rabbi was also moved. "Good for you," he told Eliyahu, kissing him. Several months passed, and Eliyahu kept his resolve. One Sunday, he called the rabbi. "Rabbi, I need you urgently," he said. "Come." The rabbi invited him. Oh, no, come. The rabbi invited him. He told him, "Come." Eliyahu came distraught. "I need a tikkun, a real tikkun." Tikkun is an act of fixing for a rectification for sinning. He said, "What's going on?" Asked the rabbi, kind of treading carefully. What is he gonna say? I have to be very sensitive. Eliyahu began to tell him what had happened the day before on Shabbos. It was the Shabbos before January 1st, a Shabbos the Jewish leaders jokingly referred to as Shabbos Hagadol, the Great Shabbos, because that weekend everyone would be buying jewelry for their wives. The profits were astounding. "I tossed and turned all night," Eliyahu confessed. "I couldn't stop thinking about missing the busiest day of the year. When I got up in the morning, I overcame it and went to shul. The entire service, I couldn't focus. On my way home, I decided to pass by the street with the stores, peek in and move on. I entered the street. What should I tell you, Rabbi? It was a very difficult scene to witness. The stores were all full of customers. There was only one store that was completely empty. It was closed. My store. Suddenly, a friend from a neighboring store saw me. "Hey, Ellie, what's going on? You closed down?" he asked, confused. His words cut me like a knife. "I don't open on Shabbos," I answered. He looked at me like I was crazy. "I'm serious. It's been several months that the store's been closed on Shabbos," I said. He looked me in the eye and he said, "Listen well, Ellie. Give God all the Shabboses of the year, but he owes you this one. To close your store this week? I'm surprised at you. Open your eyes, look around you," he said, gesturing at the crowds mobbing the stores. "I almost listened," he said. "At the last second, I picked up my feet and I ran home. I came inside utterly confused. I recited Kiddush for my wife and kids and suddenly felt dizzy. Before my eyes, there floated necklaces, bracelets, rings, and all kinds of jewelry. I thought about my friends who would be laughing all the way to the bank, and my heart was crushed. My feet begged to take me back to the store. At that moment, I knew I needed to do something drastic. "I'm not feeling well. I'm going to rest," I blurted out. I closeted myself in my room, downed half a bottle of vodka, not recommended, and soon fell into a deep sleep, waking up only in the evening. To my wife's credit, she didn't bother me with too many questions, realizing that something had obviously happened. Eliyahu finished the story. "Rabbi, I'm really sorry that my Shabbos went past like that, drunk and sleeping. I came to ask for a tikkun." Eliyahu saw the rabbi was in tears. He too began to cry. "Is it so terrible? There's no tikkun for me," he asked in panic. Rabbi Slavatinsky needed a few moments to regain his composure. "No, my dear Eliyahu, you did not understand. I'm not crying over your great sin. On the contrary, I'm crying with jealousy. You are a truly righteous man, and where the penitent stands, even always righteous cannot stand." Eliyahu was completely confused. "Look," the rabbi explained, "I'm thinking about my Shabbos and comparing it to yours. I got up in the morning. I went to immerse in a mikveh. I went to shul. I prayed calmly. Nothing bothered me or disturbed my Shabbos rest. I came home. I ate the Shabbos meal. I sang songs. It was a real delight. I gained from Shabbos. On the other hand, what did I give Shabbos? What have I sacrificed for it? I can't answer that. Your Shabbos, however, after all these years of opening your store, you overcame that and closed. Now you stood before all the open stores full of customers and you hesitated. Yet you withstood the enormous challenge. Do you have any idea what kind of joy your Shabbos caused on high? Now you know why I'm jealous." Eliyahu was encouraged by the rabbi's words. In his heart, he knew that from now on, he'd never, ever hesitate to keep Shabbos again. After passing this challenge, he knew nothing would ever break him. Incredible, incredible story. Wow, we're running out of time. Let's finish it off. The Rebbe continues, page 11. The relationship between God and the Jewish people is through the Torah. On the day of his wedding refers to the day of the giving of the Torah. How do you engage in this relationship, in this marriage? Is through fulfilling the Torah, through fulfilling Hashem's mitzvahs. Torah is divided into three categories, symbolized by money, legal document, and cohabitation. And these are three ways to connect to God. We find a similar idea where the sages teach that the world stands on three pillars: Torah, divine service, and charitable acts. This means that the Torah is generally divided into three categories, page 12, which are ultimately part of the same Torah. The Torah can also be divided into three categories symbolized by money, a document, and cohabitation. The three categories are: 1, mitzvahs performed with the body. This thing. 2, mitzvahs performed not with the body itself, but with a person's property, stuff that you own, and to which they have invested much labor. And 3, mitzvahs performed with one's personal faculties of intellect and emotion. Those three correspond to money, a document, and cohabitation. How so? 1, cohabitation, represents the mitzvahs performed with the body. Okay. 2, money, which includes anything of monetary value, referring to the mitzvahs performed with one's property. C, a document. The use of a document for kiddushin is derived from the word sefer, which means book, which alludes to study of the Torah, which is called the Sefer Torah. The division is between intellect and action, and within action, there are actions done with the body and actions done with property. A side point, something that just came into my head, I'll just share it. I was learning recently the laws of mezuzah, putting up a mezuzah on the door. It's a biblical commandment. It's a mitzvah of the Torah. If you have a doorway, you put up a mezuzah, and it'll protect everyone in the home. There's a discussion, a very somewhat of a heated discussion. If a person is very, very poor, God forbid, and they have a little bit of money, okay, they have enough money to buy only one of two objects. They can either buy themselves a pair of tefillin to put on every day, or they can buy a mezuzah, only one of the two. Which one should they buy? So some opinions say that the person should buy the tefillin. What's the reason given? Exactly what we said here. By number 1, cohabitation. It represents the mitzvah performed with the body. Okay? Tefillin is called the mitzvah shebegufay. It's a mitzvah done with one's own body. Whereas a mezuzah is, we'll talk about soon about agency. You can't send an agent. You can't send a representative to put on tefillin for you. You put on tefillin, Steve, I'll watch. You got it? There, I did my tefillin. That's great. Steve put on tefillin, but you didn't put on tefillin. If you ask Steve, can you put up the mezuzah on my door? I give you permission. He puts it up. You did the mitzvah. Great. It's your house, your mezuzah. He put it up for you. You did a mitzvah. You didn't need to be the one to put it up on the door. But the tefillin, it's a mitzvah of your own body. You need to put it on your own body. Some things you have to do yourself. The division between mitzvahs performed with the body and mitzvahs performed with property parallels. It's like a law pertaining to kiddushin. Once again, mitzvahs performed with one's property can also be fulfilled through an agent, a representative. Mitzvahs performed with the body, such as laying tefillin, cannot be fulfilled through an agent. It is a mitzvah that must be done with the person's own body. The same distinction exists with regard to the three manners of kiddushin. Kiddushin by means of money or a document can be done through an agent, but cohabitation can only be done by the man himself and not through any agent. Right? So like another one is Shabbos. Chaim, you keep Shabbos for me. You're my representative. You keep Shabbos. I'll do my own thing. It doesn't work like that. Both got to keep Shabbos. Page 13, the perfect marriage. A woman is betrothed in 3 ways means that the initial connection of a Jew to Hashem must be with at least one of these 3 ways. And then following that, once you've done one of these 3 ways, one mitzvah leads to another. And one continually grows until achieving completion in all 3 ways. Then the relationship will progress beyond the initial stage of kiddushin to the final complete stage of marriage, which is called nisuin, a perfect union between God and the Jewish people. Every self-respecting marriage counselor has written at least an article or 2 on, quote, how to keep the spark, how to hold on to the love and passion of the early years of marriage for years to come. This question didn't come up yesterday, and it didn't originate with marriage between man and woman. It's already in the Torah, actually, regarding the marriage between the Jewish people and God. That's the lesson. The lesson we can learn from this. The sages teach us that we need to consider the Torah every day like a new gift. In addition to receiving the Torah at Mount Sinai thousands of years ago, we need to accept the Torah and its mitzvahs every day anew with the same passion and excitement we had the first time. We have to look at Torah as it's new, not because we're pretending like it's new, because it's actually new. We say a blessing, and many of you might be familiar with. They make a blessing in the synagogue when you get called up for an aliyah. I mean, you hear the bar mitzvah. I hear the bar mitzvah boy ringing in my ear. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Right? How do you end off that blessing? Baruch atah. I'm not gonna say Hashem's name, but Baruch atah Hashem notein haTorah. Do you know what those words mean? Notein haTorah. Noisen haTorah. Noisen haTorah doesn't mean the one who gave the Torah. Blessed are you, God, the one who gave the Torah. That's not what it says. It says the one who gives the Torah. Present tense. Gives the Torah. Didn't he give it thousands of years ago? He did. But he's been giving it every single second since. And we have an opportunity and the ability to receive the Torah anew every moment. It takes work within us to see it that way. But we have that ability. We're almost done. Source 7, Deuteronomy 6:6. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. Rashi, the commentator, says that I command you today, they should not be like an old edict that isn't cherished, but rather like a new one that everyone excitedly runs to. Yeah, Rashi explains the Torah as the word today, implying that we must keep the passion fresh as if the Torah was given to us today. Page 14, yeah, the Rebbe says, there is practical directive here for every single Jew, especially those that spend their entire day engrossed in Torah study, who must have extra passion in their study and observance. Each and every day we must accept upon ourselves anew the concept of exclusivity, forbidden to the rest of the world like consecrated items. Our only relationship with worldly matters should be in the context of divine service. We need to focus on continually increasing our Torah study and mitzvah observance, beginning with one of the three ways. Mitzvahs performed with the body, mitzvahs performed with the intellectual faculties, and the largest category, mitzvahs performed with our property. This makes our relationship with Hashem into an enduring bond that lasts all year round. The takeaway from today's class, I think it's pretty clear. You got to do something. Shavuot is coming Tuesday night, Wednesday, Thursday, 2 days and a night. This is an opportunity. We can show Hashem that we mean business. And when he sees that we mean business, we do an extra mitzvah, not one time. We do one time is also good, but definitely more than that is much better. You make a resolution. I'm going to take an actionable mitzvah, something that I can actually do. That's not going to, something that I don't have to change my whole life around. Just one little small change. I'm going to start doing. Add a little bit of a Torah study. By the way, you're supposed to learn Torah every single day. Do you know this? Every single day of the year of your life, you're supposed to learn Torah. Whether you're able to learn a lot or a little bit, whatever you can, but you have to learn every single day, and it's an incredible opportunity. It's a good thing. It's exciting. Should be, at least. Add a little Torah learning. Add a little mitzvah, because they're not so little. The truth is, they're not really so little. They look little, but they're not. And you will be able to use this to absorb the reality, the holiness of Shavuos, and to bring it day-to-day life following after Shavuos. You drag Shavuos throughout the year, and when you add a mitzvah, like Maimonides writes, you have to look at the world as if it's balanced on a scale. Half the one side of the scale is good, one side of the scale is the opposite of good, and it's a perfect balance. And you have to look at it that with my mitzvah that I do, this one mitzvah, it might be the mitzvah that will be added to the side of good. It'll tip the scale outweighing the bad, and it'll bring salvation and redemption to the entire universe. He says, Maimonides. So with that, I wish everyone a good Yom Tov, and it should be a spiritually uplifting and a spiritually descending as well, that you should bring the holiness down into the world around you and within yourselves. And we should merit the coming of Mashiach before Shavuos, so we can have the Torah Chadasha Mi'iti Teitze. It says in the Midrash that we'll have a new Torah when Mashiach comes. God forbid doesn't mean we're going to get rid of the old Torah and get a new Torah. That's not what it means. We're going to have the same Torah. A new dimension within Torah will be revealed, the one that we can't even imagine, the incredibleness of it. I made up a word just for this class. Have a good night. Yom Tov, good Shabbos.